Have you ever had that strange feeling like the universe was trying to tap you on the shoulder? A thought comes out of nowhere, and just moments later, something happens that matches it almost perfectly. Maybe it's running into someone you'd been thinking about, hearing a phrase you desperately needed at exactly the right time, or witnessing a coincidence so sharp it stops you in your tracks. For a moment, you can't help but think, this can't just be random. And in those moments, maybe you even felt a chill run through you, or an eerie sense of silence inside, as if something larger was watching, as if reality itself bent for a second just to deliver you a message. This isn't madness, it actually has a name. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called it synchronicity. Now, don't mistake this for cheap superstition or some shallow form of spirituality. Jung was no mystic charlatan. He was a psychiatrist, a scientist of the human soul. He believed that at certain points, your inner world and the outside world line up so precisely, with such symbolic meaning that it can't be explained by logic or probability alone. When that happens, something deeper is at work. The unconscious is breaking through, trying to guide you. And here's the thing. If you ignore that pull, it often comes back, stronger, louder, more impossible to deny. What if those odd experiences you've had aren't mistakes of fate at all? What if they're reflections of your own psyche, signals of pain, confusion, or transformation bubbling up to the surface? Synchronicity tends to show up when you're on the edge of change, when you feel lost, or when life is pushing you to a new chapter. Most people will brush this off as nonsense. They'll call it paranoia or pure coincidence. But you know the truth. Deep down, you felt something. Something that touched you in a way you can't explain and can't forget. This video is meant to be a conversation with you, the one who's going through this, the one seeing patterns others can't see, the one living moments that no one else seems to understand. You feel like something is trying to step out of the shadows of your life. In this space, I'm not here to judge or dismiss. I'm here to walk with you through this invisible territory where reason and mystery overlap. Because maybe you're not losing your mind. Maybe you're actually waking up. Carl Jung did not believe in pure chance. To him, existence wasn't just a random jumble of disconnected events. He saw life as a tapestry woven with symbols, archetypes, and recurring patterns that intertwine your inner world with the external one. Synchronicity, as Jung described it, is the collision point between those two realms. But let's break it down. What exactly is synchronicity? Jung defined it as the simultaneous occurrence of two events that don't have a direct cause and effect link, but still share a symbolic meaning for the person experiencing them. They're not connected by physical law. They're connected by meaning. Think of it like this. You're intensely thinking about a long-lost friend you haven't spoken to in years. Out of nowhere, your phone buzzes with a message from them. Or maybe you dream about a blue butterfly, and the very next day, you notice that same image staring at you from a book cover that practically jumps off the shelf. Science would tell you these are coincidences. Jung would tell you, pay attention.
For him, these moments were small cracks in the surface of objective reality, glimpses into something deeper trying to manifest. They're not random at all. They're the unconscious using the world around you as its language, showing you what your rational mind can't quite grasp, but what your soul instantly recognizes. And here's the key. Jung didn't come to this idea on a whim. He wasn't daydreaming. He spent decades studying dreams, symbols, mythology, religion, even alchemy and theoretical physics. In his clinical work, he encountered patients who had prophetic dreams, symbolic visions, or repeated experiences that lined up with real-world events in uncanny ways. The usual tools of logic and statistics fell short. They couldn't explain why names, numbers, and encounters would line up so precisely. To Jung, the only explanation was that a hidden principle of order was at play, something beyond cause and effect, something shaping both psyche and reality. That principle was synchronicity. But let's make something very clear. Synchronicity isn't about asking the universe for favors and waiting for rewards. It's not about wish fulfillment or magical thinking. It's subtler, more mysterious, and yes, more demanding. These moments appear when you're willing to listen to what your soul actually wants to say, even if the message is uncomfortable. That's the central point. Synchronicity only holds weight for the person experiencing it. To an outsider, it might look trivial or silly, but to you, the one who lived it, the experience feels impossible to ignore. It carries meaning that shakes you at your core. And maybe you're wondering, why do these events always seem to appear during life's most difficult chapters? Why do they arise in times of crisis, transition, or when you're on the verge of making a huge decision? We'll explore that in depth, because synchronicity often shows up precisely when you've run out of answers, when the rational mind is exhausted, and when your unconscious is ready to step in with its own guidance.
There are seasons in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. Relationships end, plans collapse, and the meaning you once held on to dissolves in front of you. And it's in those vulnerable moments, when your heart feels exposed and your mind is worn out, that synchronicity often shows up. But why? Carl Jung believed that when the solid structure of rational consciousness begins to weaken, whether through trauma, grief, loneliness, or deep internal transformation, the unconscious begins to surface. And the unconscious doesn't speak in plain language. It speaks in symbols, patterns, images, and at times, through the very events of your daily life. Think about it. Have you ever wondered why the right person, phrase, or place seem to show up at exactly the right time, as if the world itself stepped in to respond to a question you didn't even realize you were asking? For Jung, this wasn't chance. It was a dialogue between your inner world and the outer world. Synchronicity is that precise point of contact. It's the invisible breaking into the visible. Now, the universe doesn't respond to you with spreadsheets or logical arguments. It responds with mirrors. And those mirrors can appear in strange places. In a song that comes on the radio with words that cut straight to your soul, in a phrase that jumps off the page of a book, in a symbol that keeps repeating until you can't ignore it. Experiences like this shake our belief in a cold, mechanical universe. They hint that maybe reality isn't indifferent, that maybe there's an underlying order trying to get our attention. But here's a warning. Synchronicity isn't about obsessively looking for signs in everything. It isn't spiritual paranoia. It's about meaning, and meaning is born inside of you, not outside. The event itself doesn't carry the magic. What matters is the impact it has on your psyche. Did it shake you? Did it move you to reflect? Did it change your direction or reveal a truth you couldn't put into words before? If so, then it wasn't just coincidence, it was a sign. Signs like these tend to show up when the unconscious needs to guide you toward change. When your rational mind resists, the unconscious finds another way, by manifesting outside of you, through people, events, or symbols that push you forward. That's why so many people report experiencing synchronicity during periods of doubt, loss, or big transitions. In those moments, the old answers no longer work, and your unconscious steps up to take the lead. But here's the big question. What exactly is this unconscious? And why does it speak in riddles instead of giving you a straight answer? For Jung, The unconscious was not just a dumping ground of forgotten memories. He saw it as a living, symbolic, creative intelligence inside you. It holds your wounds and traumas, but it also carries your vocation, your hidden strengths, and your potential for transformation. And when your outer life drifts too far from what your deeper self is trying to express, the unconscious doesn't just sit quietly, it pushes back. Sometimes it does so through dreams, sometimes through emotional pain, and sometimes it uses the world itself through synchronicities that break your routine and make you stop and question. You can rationalize it away, tell yourself it's all random, but the unease remains. It's like an inner therapist knocking at the door of your awareness saying, "You're not listening, so I'm going to show you another way." And it does show you. It shows you through uncanny encounters, through repetitions that defy chance, through symbols that pop up at exactly the critical moments of your life. Maybe it's a butterfly that appears during mourning, a number that repeats when you're weighing a decision, or an image that stalks your dreams and then appears in waking life.
These manifestations don't follow the rules of the intellect. They follow the logic of the soul. They are metaphors, myths, and signs, and they need a different kind of sensitivity to be understood. So why doesn't the unconscious just tell you clearly what it wants? Because the truths that matter most can't be handed to you in words. They have to be lived, felt, and integrated. The unconscious doesn't want to give you a neat little answer. It wants to transform you. That's why synchronicity is not just a quirky coincidence. It's an invitation to grow, to listen, to pay attention to the parts of yourself you've ignored. Maybe this is happening to you right now. Maybe you're seeing repeating numbers, dreaming strange dreams, or noticing patterns that leave you unsettled. If so, don't dismiss it as weakness or paranoia. It's actually openness. It means something in you is ready to surface. But to really understand synchronicity, we need to zoom out beyond the personal level. Jung discovered that the unconscious isn't just individual. Beneath your private memories and experiences, there's a deeper layer of the psyche that all humans share. He called this the collective unconscious. And it's here, in this symbolic ocean we all swim in, that the most powerful synchronicities are born. Because when a symbol from the collective unconscious bursts into your personal life, especially in times of crisis or change, the impact can feel overwhelming. Suddenly you feel connected to something far bigger than yourself. You sense an invisible order guiding what once felt random. This is where Jung's ideas get even more fascinating, because in this collective layer live the great universal symbols and archetypes. The serpent, the hero, the wise old man, the shadow, the mother, the cycle of death and rebirth. These aren't cultural inventions. They're spontaneous expressions of the deep structure of the human psyche. And Jung discovered that synchronicity often pulls from this shared well of symbols. When one of them appears in your life, it's not just coincidence. It's your unconscious using a universal language to get your attention. In the next section, we'll go deeper into these archetypes and explore how Jung saw synchronicity not just as random magic, but as part of the ancient process of inner transformation.
The human mind is not just a private chamber of thoughts and memories. Beneath your personal experiences lies a deeper foundation, a psychic layer older than you, older than your family, older than culture itself. Carl Jung called this layer the collective unconscious. This is the shared reservoir of human symbols, myths, and archetypes. It's the place where the image of the hero, the shadow, the wise elder, the nurturing mother, and the serpent all live. These figures aren't inventions of one culture or era. They appear across civilizations because they're hardwired into the structure of the human psyche. And when synchronicity strikes with force, it often comes from this collective level. Imagine encountering an ancient symbol in your dream, say a snake shedding its skin, only to see it echoed in your waking life the next day, during a moment of personal crisis. That's not just coincidence. It's your unconscious drawing on archetypes that speak across cultures and time, nudging you toward transformation. Jung saw the work of ancient alchemists as a symbolic mirror of this process. They spoke of turning lead into gold, but Jung realized they were actually describing a psychological transformation. Lead symbolized the chaos and fragmentation of the unconscious. Gold represented integration, wholeness, full consciousness. And here's where synchronicity comes in. It often shows up during the dark night phase of inner change, what the alchemists called the nigredo. That's the period when life feels like it's disintegrating, when you're in confusion and uncertainty. In those times, symbols begin to appear as guideposts: a dream, a repeated number, an animal crossing your path, a book falling off the shelf at just the right moment. These aren't random quirks. They're psychic signals pointing you toward the next step. They remind you that even in the darkest phase, there is direction, there is meaning, there is movement toward transformation. But here's the challenge. How do you know what these signs mean? How do you distinguish between a genuine synchronicity and just random noise?
Jung compared interpreting synchronicities to interpreting dreams. The objective event itself isn't as important as the subjective effect it has on you. What matters is how the symbol lands in your psyche. Did it stir you? Did it reveal something hidden? Did it make you pause and reflect? The first step is to observe without judgment. When something strange happens, resist the urge to immediately explain it away. Write it down. Ask yourself, what did this remind me of? What emotions surfaced in that moment? Do I notice any recurring patterns? The unconscious often speaks in associations, not in straight lines. Symbols can hold multiple layers of meaning. For example, if snakes keep appearing in your life, don't think only literally. To Jung, the snake is a symbol of renewal, death and rebirth, danger and wisdom. Which of those meanings applies to you depends on where you are in your life. The second step is to put the symbol in context. Are you grieving? Are you standing at crossroads? Are you in the middle of a profound transition? Synchronicities often cluster in these phases because the unconscious is most active when the conscious mind is uncertain. And the third step, brutal honesty. The unconscious doesn't care about your comfort. It's not here to flatter your ego. Its goal is growth. That means the message might come through as something you've been avoiding, something you don't want to see. A lot of people misuse synchronicity as a way to confirm their desires, looking for signs that tell them what they already want to believe. That's an ego trap. True synchronicity doesn't confirm your wishes. It reveals truths, and often those truths are uncomfortable. They point to what needs to die inside you, what needs to be released, so something new can be born. That's why Jung insisted that without self-knowledge, there is no real interpretation. You need the courage to look into your own shadow, to accept that the symbol may be challenging you, not consoling you. But if you accept that challenge, something changes forever.
Life stops looking like a random sequence of disconnected events. It becomes a mirror. Every occurrence can carry meaning. Every symbol can become a doorway. Existence itself takes on depth. And this leads us to the final question. What does the unconscious actually want from you? Why does it send these messages through synchronicity? Jung believed the answer lies in individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are. Synchronicity is the unconscious pushing you toward that path. It's not trying to give you shortcuts or magical answers. It's trying to wake you up. But individuation is not easy. It requires letting go of ready-made answers, leaving behind predictable paths, and stepping into the unknown. Synchronicity often arises when you're standing on that threshold, when the old is breaking down and the new is still fragile and unclear. You can choose to dismiss it all as coincidence, to go back to sleep, to ignore what you felt. But deep down, you know that won't last. The call will return, stronger each time, until you pay attention. Or you can accept the invitation. You can follow the thread, enter the symbolic forest, and ask with raw honesty, what am I avoiding? What within me is trying to be born? Which part of me is ready to die? That's the power of synchronicity. It doesn't come to hand you certainty. It comes to transform you. It comes to remind you of what you've forgotten, what you abandoned, what you must reclaim. When synchronicity whispers, it's saying one thing: you are ready. So the question is, are you?